So it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Cruz. He's been a great partner of ours at Manheim, and we've been working pretty close together the last couple of years to do test data management with grid tools.
And this is Dave Gimbolo. Dave is one of our valuable partners. He works for Oracy. He's been a strategic partner helping us provide resources and technical expertise around CA's Test Data Manager.
So as everybody files in, we'll talk about what we're going to do. So Manheim, and we'll talk about Manheim in more detail, but Manheim has been using Test Data Maker, Test Data Manager, Test Data Maker. They've recently changed all the names of these solutions just to make the job of presenting a little bit more difficult, so bear with us. Are you going to change it again during the conference? Maybe? Okay, we'll see. Okay, so they've been using synthetic data generation really to change and transform the way we're doing testing there. And it's very exciting, and we're excited to show you the implementation of this.
Okay. Cool, so here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about who's Manheim, what we are, what we do, talking about the catalysts for really investing in the CA's Test Data Management. Talk about how we've created data in the past, how we use Test Data Manager to develop a new approach to solving the test data management problem, and what our success story is. Talk about ROI, things like that, things that management likes to hear about when they're buying tools and investing in resources. So with that, talk a little bit about who Manheim is. So Manheim is part of the Cox Automotive umbrella of companies, includes companies like Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book. And our mission at Cox Automotive is to really expand the marketplace, change how the world buys, owns, and sells vehicles. And Manheim is just a small part of that Cox Automotive family. So we have about 20,000 employees and 122 locations around the world. We operate auctions, car auctions, vehicles here in the US and other countries. So we had about 7 million vehicles roll through our auction lanes last year, which equated about $46 billion in value. So if you have a used car or you've traded in a used car, chances are it's came through Manheim. We've touched it, we've painted it, we've transported it, we reconditioned it, and we've helped connect different dealers together. So Manheim's been around a long time. So back in the 70s, this is the user interface that our users was welcomed with every time they logged into our applications. Well, 2015, guess what? Folks still saw this, right? So we've been logging in this way since the 70s. We were very I-Series based, batch processing, RPG, DB2. It was great. It worked for us as we grew and evolved. But,
Chris, what were the new initiatives you're working on to get out of that?
So we embarked on several key initiatives. So we had 5 projects that we really, management really wanted to deliver. So we wanted to centralize our customer information. We had customer information, dealers, buyers, phone numbers. They were spread across all different databases across the organization. We wanted to deliver a centralized customer data store, a transactional data store. Vehicles were bought and sold in various systems. We wanted to provide a central platform where we could do reporting. An operational data store. See a pattern forming here, which tracked all the bits and pieces about the vehicle when it came through the lane, what options it had, color, what we did to the vehicle. We wanted to build a repository that stored all the information. We wanted to move from a batch process to more of a real-time messaging-based solution, right? So we wanted to evolve our architecture. We wanted to be able to innovate, and batch processing was just slow and slow and wasn't sexy. And lastly, we wanted to move our financials from our I-Series to Oracle's e-business solution in the cloud. So we could speed up remittance. We could give dealers their money. We could receive money much faster. So those were all big key initiatives that drove us as an organization to evolve our application architecture. We wanted to be able to innovate. We want to be creative, and we deliver new solutions to our customers.
So what were some of the technologies involved in the solution?
So old ways was, again, iSeries, DB2, RPG, a little bit of Java, a little bit of Linux. The new world that we were planning was everything under the sun. It was all databases. It's Oracle, it's SQL Server, MySQL, NoSQL databases. It was on-prem, off-prem, running servers in Amazon's cloud, invested in Mashery. Everything was there, right? We had all the boxes checked.
So you folks in the audience, are any of you having that same type of transition going on at your business? Great.
So again, we wanted to move from the old way of doing things, right? It worked well for us in the past, but we wanted to bring our technology and our architecture into the modern world so we could innovate. You know, we wanted to be sexy. We wanted to be able to bring value to our customers much faster and easier. So talk about our previous strategy. So test data, right? We're here to talk about test data. So we knew test data was going to be a big problem for us. In the batch world, we provisioned test data in one of a couple ways. We copy data from production. Does anybody still do that today? Right? I mean, when we copy data from production, what you see is what you get, right? It took us a long time to copy that data down, 18 to 24 hours. So our systems was down during that period of time. It was unavailable. We couldn't do anything. So typically that was restricted to a weekend. If what you needed wasn't in there, well, you had to go manually create it. So again, that was another way that we created data, manually hands-on keyboards, right? It's very time-consuming to do that. We did use some functional automation testing tools to speed up that process, but it was still very limited in what we could do. And there were some other creative solutions that we had implemented over the last 10 or 15 years that data, when it hit production, it triggered into our lower environment, which was really great. You know, this is all giving us real live production data, but then data got clobbered, right? So data that I'm using got overwritten by data that Dave's using. It really created a lot of havoc within our test environments.
Do you all have problems with data mismatch, testers, other people clobbering your test data in your testing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would refresh every weekend. And so if it was Thursday and I had to run a test that took some time, my data might get clobbered by the time, you know, I actually was able to complete it. So I would just push that test over to next week. So we were very inefficient in how we operated, and how we created that data really drove our testing in a very bad, negative way.
And y'all have a really unique problem in that your solution is really pipelined, right?
Right. Right. So we were moving to more. We identified that synthetic transactions, creating the data synthetically, was really where we wanted to get to. Our new systems are very tightly integrated together, and it was all about the integration testing. So the new approach, right? So we wanted to get. Sorry.
We're both doing it.
We're clicking. So we wanted to get to the new approach, right? We wanted to be innovative. We wanted to deploy these tools. We wanted to deliver on these solutions, and we needed a tool that can help address our test data management problems. So enter CA's Test Data Manager. Now, we acquired it back when it was still Grid Tools, but we never really fully utilized its capability then. We partnered with Orsi, and Dave, brought some of our problems to them with some of the beginning of these key initiatives, and they really helped us provide resources and valuable technical insight, and says, this is really a tool you have, it's sitting on the shelf, you really should, this can help you, right? So what we did next was we started breaking things down, right? So the analogy here is, you know, we need to build these new applications, and we need to build data that fit them. So you can't just start building the car at once, you kind of got to break down the pieces individually, and that's what we did. We started analyzing what the common business processes were. So what we did was we took about 3 resources, and we mapped out about 20 to 30 of our key business processes in the RPG code, and went line by line and figured out what these things were doing, right? So this program updated a table A, updated table B, updated table C, and using grid tools, using Test Data Manager, we were able to duplicate that behavior. We were able to script those pieces out so that we could eventually create synthetic data, because we didn't want to just continue to copy data from production, because if we did that using Test Data Manager, all we're doing is perpetuating the problem. We're not solving new problems. We're just swapping one tool, one solution out for another.
So what were the 4 categories that you broke it down into?
Sure. So what we did was, as we were evaluating the applications, we found some common themes, right? So we found of all these big initiatives we were doing, dozens and dozens of applications, we settled on 5 key components. And so what we did is we looked at those 5 key components, and so since we were creating synthetic transactions, not bulk copying, just copying data, we kind of had to find some rules. So we broke data down to 4 different categories. We had environment data, things about the environment, server names, configuration stuff that made those databases and servers run. Then we had reference data. So reference data is things that needed to exist in the application for it to work properly. Configuration files for the particular applications, lookup data. So like common things like states or lookup values or lists that are driven by those particular applications. And last but not least, transactional data. So the stuff that we really use, the stuff that we really consume. So the vehicles, the customers, all those things, all those attributes. So we broke them up in those 4 different categories. And then we could define rules on when we would load stuff. Because again, we didn't just want to copy from production, we just want to bulk dump the stuff in. We would kind of set up rules and strategy how we were actually going to implement that.
So this data engineering process was driven out of your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Hugh Price here, he likes to refer to the term as data archaeology. So, you know, we kind of make the analogy to Indiana Jones. There's no boulders that's going to roll over us in this situation. It's a safe environment, but we had to dig in and really figure out how our applications work. I mean, there's 20 or 30 years worth of legacy applications running in our environment. The people that wrote them are gone, retired, moved on to something else. So we had no documentation, so we really had to undertake this effort to figure out how our systems worked. And so, you know, the result of that is we have information that we've never had. I've been at Manheim for 13 years, and I personally have learned more about how our applications work within the last year than I have the entire time we've been there. And this process, this initiative has really driven that.
Yeah, I think the quality engineering really drives an understanding of the overall solution. So that's fantastic news.
So to kind of give you an idea, of what our application architecture looked like, right? So just want to say, oh, my stuff is more complicated. Yeah, they had something simple. This is our application architecture. This is the new world we were developing, right? This is easy, right? No, it's complicated.
There's the target design, right?
Yeah, this is what we were going to deliver. We paid a lot of money for a consultant to put this together. There's some smudges here to erase the names because they're server names, and I don't want to get in trouble for that. I want to get my manager fired for having that up there. But basically, this is what we were delivering.
Does this look like anybody else's architecture? Kind of a mess?
Yes, spaghetti code. So we had databases, we had iSeries, we have Linux servers, Windows servers, Microsoft CRM. We had to all integrate it all together, right? And these big key initiatives were delivering these data stores, these repositories that aggregated all the information from these sources so that we could build new applications, we could extend the functionality to our customers. So we run into some road bumps, or some speed bumps along the way. We knew we could use Test Data Manager to help solve these data problems. We knew it was going to be critical to address for integration, user acceptance testing for the delivery of these 5 key initiatives.
So Chris, we had some doubters, right?
We did. We had people that says, no, what you got to understand is this is the way we've always done it, right? Those are people that were steeped in the old way of doing things and lacked vision to understand and anticipate what the future needs of the organization were. So what I have up here is kind of an extracted view of that spaghetti diagram I had earlier. So what we have here is we have RPG code running on an iSeries box. So typically people would register a vehicle at auction. It would trigger up to a data warehouse. It's also an iSeries. Trigger off to an Oracle database. And then eventually publish messages, XML messages, various message types to queues so that systems could now subscribe. Because remember, we wanted to move to a messaging-based architecture. We no longer want to be batch. We want to extend the functionality of these applications, build new ones, but without having to go back and touch this old stuff over and over again.
So this is the simplified flow from the previous diagram, so y'all could do some smart engineering, right?
Exactly. So what we did, so after we did that data archaeology, we were able to go through, remember those 20 or so business processes. We documented what tables were being updated when users did certain things, certain behaviors, and we modeled that behavior inside Test Data Manager. And so ultimately what we were able to prove was that we could duplicate the behavior. So anybody picking up messages out of these queues didn't know if it was a person or didn't know if it was Test Data Manager. right? So what we're able to prove is we could simulate synthetic transactions within the tool itself, right? So again, we didn't want to just batch copy stuff from production because we didn't know what we wanted to get. We could influence and control exactly the data that we needed. So we're not getting thousands of records from production, we're giving the right 100 or so records. I know Hugh was up here earlier talking about making sure you have the right data to test. I don't need thousands of records. Where's the 10 I need to conduct my testing? And so by proving this approach, proving we could do it, we could give people the right amount of data because you can spend a lot of time and energy creating things that you don't need, and we want to cut down on that activity.
So Chris, when you were developing this, you were supporting the event-driven design for development. You were giving data for development and test, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we were going through and doing this, we had the cooperation of the developers, making sure that things appeared right, things operated correctly. Not only the QA testers, the developers, and also BAs within our organization. We wanted to make sure that we could successfully deliver this in a transparent way.
It's like data-driven development, right?
It is kind of in a way, right? But ultimately, we were able to prove this scenario would work. So, back to those 5 key initiatives, they're all kind of listed up here. So we were able to deliver all of them this year. So that customer repository of information, we were able to deliver that this year. So not only we're using it within inside Manheim, but we're also making it available to Cox Automotive. The larger company can now find information about our customers and aggregate that together. They're actually making a super customer repository now, following the model that we put in place. The transactional repository, we have that now. Now we can report and find out more information about our customers than we ever could to make sure, customers, what vehicles they're buying, being able to anticipate customers' needs and satisfy what those needs are. Let's see.
So Chris, we were talking yesterday that y'all had tried to do this initiative a couple times before, but it didn't work. So what was better about it this time?
Yeah, I mean, around the office, people say we've tried to do a lot of these projects over the last 20 years, and either the technology wasn't mature enough, we didn't have the right attitude, or didn't have the right support from management or leadership. But we had the right people, we put in the right process, and the right technology where we could ultimately succeed where these projects have failed in the past. So that operational data store, it's there and it's available. That event-driven architecture, it's there and available. Now we're, not only we're building applications for anticipating and satisfying our future customer needs, but we've actually made it available to outside resources. So now they can hook in and gain, instead of competing, now they can complement, we can work together. And that financial transformation we did, that was a long, painful journey, but we were able to successfully, last week, deliver it to a location, and we were able to process everything as it should. Nothing blew up, everybody got paid, it was all a success. And really our test data management strategy helped us be successful at that. I mean, because when you're talking about financials, you're really talking about, people want to get that right. So integration testing, acceptance testing, we were able to successfully simulate those synthetic transactions and saturate all the downstream systems, increase the effectiveness of our testing.
$46 billion in vehicles is a lot of financial transactions.
Yeah, we want to get that right, absolutely. So the ROI. So we started capturing requests since January 1 this year, and through about a week ago, these are our numbers. So we have fulfilled 291 individual requests. So a request may be, hey, I need 100 vehicles, hey, I need 10,000 vehicles, or hey, every Monday I need 1,000 vehicles loaded in this particular state. So that's, one request, even if it's reoccurring, that's captured in this 291. So total records provision, 200,000 records. So because it was an event-driven architecture, we couldn't just drop the vehicle in at sold. So it's like, I came here to CA World from Atlanta, right? I had to get in my car, drive to the airport, get on the airplane. I couldn't just magically show up here in Vegas. So we had to roll the vehicle through those stages and processes. So the 200,000 records provision is actually on the low end. That's what ultimately the end state was. We provided several thousand updates to those records to ultimately get them into those states. Time to manually provision that data. So on the scenario that the records that the testers needed, well, obviously they didn't have it because they put in a request for us to provision it. hands on keyboard would have been 11,000 hours. So that's a lot of man hours setting at keyboard. And even using automated functional scripts, I mean, can cut that down some, I mean, but still, it's a lot of time. So using CA's Test Data Manager, formerly known as Grid Tools Data Maker, we cut that load time down to just under 600 hours, right? So we could span that across multiple processors. We could multi-thread the load process. We're able to speed that up dramatically. So the cost to provision those 200,000 records manually have been $1.1 million. So from a time savings, time calculation, it cost Test Data Manager about $100,000. So it equated to about $1 million in man-hour savings. That doesn't include.
Yeah, that's just the labor costs and
Yeah.
the QA budget. But
Right.
the time to the overall project, the time to market, the improved reliability, the developers are going to be more efficient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now we're getting requests from developers. We're getting requests from BAs. So it's expanded beyond the teams we were working with, and the testing organization. We've done our management has done a really good job of publishing this and selling the value. Partners within our broader organizations coming to us and saying, hey, you guys did an awesome job with this. How can we do this, right? We have our partners at AutoTrader and stuff saying, hey, help us do what you did, right? And so I think ultimately that's the success story. When people see what you've done and want to emulate what that activity is, that's a true sign of success. So what's next? So just because we deliver those big programs doesn't mean things stop, right? Innovation continues at Manheim. So we're looking to CA's Test Data Manager to extend, leverage the existing features and functionality. They were up here earlier telling about all the new goodies in the next release, and so there's some exciting things there. We want to expand our footprint to additional applications, right? We want to talk to new teams that we haven't engaged with and see what their test data needs are. Chances are they're probably very similar to some of the ones we've already solved, so that makes it very easy. Increase the usage of subsetting, data cloning, right? There are situations we want to pull data from production. We have this weird bug and we want to reproduce it in our test environment. It's very easy to pull that data down. If I've got a particular dealer and something happens to that dealer, I can clone that dealer and reproduce it multiple times. Data visualization, this is really a cool thing. I keep referring to Hugh, he was up here earlier today, really talking about data visualization. Yes, early on, we didn't really understand the power of it, but Hugh and his team have really shown us what the possibilities are. So if we wanted to understand what was in our test environment, that would take a week or so to figure out what's there. So we would run an extract, get about a gigabyte size CSV file, then we carve it up and then start building pivot tables to understand what data is there. Using data visualization now, that's hours. It really is. And the ability to compare that in my test environment to what's in production, that's priceless there, right? I see, I may think that there's a particular data combination I need, but I look to production, it's not there, I'm not going to waste my time and effort on it, right? Move on. So there's really, really some value there in the data visualization. And the test case optimization, I believe is formerly Agile Designer. There's a lot of value there in that particular tool as well we want to investigate because we're a Cucumber shop. There's some natural, there's some synergy there. And also, we had a particular project about 2 years ago talking about test case optimization, where we had a lot of issues going to production. Every release was rolled back. Well, why? We were running all of our tests, they were all passing. We have 1,000 automated tests, everything's working, right? Well, the problem was those 1,000 tests covered about 18% of our application. So test case optimization, if I had that tool back 2 years ago, we really could have addressed that problem. So instead, we manually kind of poured through that and figured out where our duplicate effort was. It took several resources weeks. So there's a lot of value in the suite of tools that CA has to offer, and that's what we're looking to do next.
Absolutely.
So with that, that's kind of our journey at Manheim with CA's Test Data Manager and addressing our test data needs. So is there any questions that Dave or myself can address from people from the crowd?
Come on up. To the mic, please.
So it's more a question for you, Dave. So what was kind of your role in helping them along this journey? That's kind of I'm just kind of like curious about how you approached it and how you approach it with other customers as well.
Yeah, so at Oracy, we have a whole program around test data management. We're a services provider. We've been working with Grid Tools for several years. And I'll describe the way we do it now because the transformation with them has transformed the way we do it today. So when we first came into Manheim, we worked closely with Virginia and her team to really, Virginia, stand up. No, just kidding. So the idea would be that we recognize the problem, right? So I had come from Disney where we were a big user. We had met with Manheim. We talked about the problem. The data was a mess, really. They were really constrained. They were spending lots of time and lots of hours. So we really got a chance to bring in our experts, look at the problem, do the implementation of the solution, it's attached to the databases, really help drive those first test data requests, help understand the beginning of the data flows and work collaboratively with them. And in so doing, we've got a new program where we work with other partners where we do test data management roadmaps. So we meet with customers and examine these kind of issues from the patterns we've discovered. And so it's a really exciting business space for us. It's kind of funny to have a whole business called test data management. I think we're the only ones there are. So.
Right. And not only that strategic value, but they also provided resources. So it was very difficult to find people that knew Grid Tools or Test Data Manager. So Oracy helped us provide resources that really helped jumpstart our implementation. And so, to supplement our existing staff.
Anybody looking for a job? It's a cool, you already got a job. It's a cool space. It's a cool space because I think somebody was asking us earlier, it's creative, right? So testing can be very creative. You get to examine the solution. You're going to look at it from a new angle. You know you're going to drive the data quality up. You know you can bring the solutions to market faster. And what I used to say is when I was a developer, this is my story, is when you're a developer, there's all these agile tools and project plans, and everybody tells the developer what to do. So every day you come into work and you know exactly what you have to do, and everybody knows if you did it. What's cool about being a QA person, especially in a new space, is it's inventive and creative, and all of a sudden you can do something really cool where you enabled a project that never succeeded and succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the tools here really help fuel the creativity, right? Again, we were evolving as an organization. We weren't using the same processes, the same practices to solve the same problem. We use these tools to create a creative solution to help address the organization's needs.
Sorry, one more. Sorry, I'm monopolizing this. So when we were doing the Disney thing, Disney project, we had to kind of, well actually Jessica did it, she kind of knocked back a lot of test data requests because they weren't up to standard. Mm-hmm. They were kind of like, give me some data.
Yes.
Did you have to do the same kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So that data archaeology effort really helped us learn about what our data is. And I love that tool, that term. It helped us understand how the data drove our organization. But what people knew, the knowledge was very spread out. So very early on, to your point, we had customers or requests that says, hey, I need 1,000 vehicles. Okay, well, what does that mean, all right? Because we understood how our data affected our applications, we could say, well, okay, well, what do you want? You want blue cars, you want red cars, you want the mileage, year, make, model, right? Those are obvious things, but is the vehicle checked in? Is the vehicle still on the dealer's lot? Those are different statuses, those mean very different things. And when we provide that feedback to the person making the request, they go, oh, okay. All right, okay, well, no, I just need the vehicle checked in. I don't need it sold, right? But I need the vehicle checked in. Okay, I can do that, right? And so what we were able to do is we were educate our users and provide the right data instead of trying to oversolve their problem. But there were some challenges early on, to be honest with you. It was very much, the first several months was an education process. We had to educate our users, educate our customers there. Because it's very easy to say, just give me 1,000 of whatever, right? They think this magical tool will just solve all that for you. Just give me 1,000. Well, just give me something, right? And so, there was some negotiation there to walk them through that process. And ultimately now we have educated users. We have a process where people can put in tickets. Now, you say, I don't want to have to put in a ticket, but it's very easy, right? You put in a ticket, tell me what you want. We've kind of templatized things into kind of, so people can order from a menu, right? So I want these vehicles, this type, with these dealers, and make sure we could streamline that process.
Anybody besides Hugh got a question? Come on. All right.
Hi. When you get the data provision and I'm assuming you're putting it into like a test environment, is it all going in one place? In other words, like if you have multiple things being tested at once, are they kind of still sharing the same environment where all the data is being provisioned to?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. So at Manheim, we have 7 test environments, and they are all fairly integrated together. We haven't really embraced the separate componentized virtualization stuff. We can talk more about that later, David. But it's all very integrated together. We've got physical hardware running, and so we kind of have to. We have a team that kind of manages where people are testing. So they take that and go, okay, Dave, we're going to put you over here in test environment A. Chris, we're going to put you in B. Jeff, we're going to put you in C. That's a whole separate process to analyze what those potential impacts are, because we don't want to integrate everybody together all at once, right? We may have different pieces or parts that ultimately deliver at different times, and we don't want to, because we're not virtualizing a lot of those pieces, we don't want to just throw it all together and have it break. So from an application dependency standpoint, we'll separate some of that stuff out. From a test data standpoint, what we'll do is we kind of take a smart approach how we segment data. We can say, Jeff, these are your 10 customers. Dave, these are your 10 customers. We publish that information out. We love to use wikis. I'm a big proponent of the wiki. So we publish all that stuff out there. If data is reserved, that's available. What tables we can populate, that's all out there, because I'm a big believer in putting speed bumps in people's way. Yes, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to answer all your questions, but I got a lot of stuff going on. If I can provide a little speed bump there that can answer your question and you don't have to come to me, then that's awesome, super, right? So we'll publish that information, what people are doing in which environments, to help segment that data. In Manheim, we have different sale numbers, and they typically coordinate to the week of the year. So sale 1's week 1, sale 2's week 2, et cetera, et cetera. So we can space people out from an application standpoint. We can kind of keep people segmented there. But ultimately, everybody's got to play together, right? So you got to integrate somewhere. So typically in our integration environment, we'll kind of, typically the customer or our customers will go, hey, I'm testing with these other teams. This is the data we need, and we can provide a comprehensive data solution for them so that those particular teams that are integrating together have all the right customers, have all the right vehicles, have all the right information there.
Has everybody seen a demo of Test Data Manager that needs to? So I think to understand how it works, it's a solution that you build scripts in, it's organized into projects and versions, so it helps coordinate this. The net effect is the solutions he's talking about, the data pools. But I think to really understand it, it'd be a great idea, if this is exciting to you, to go to breakout sessions or over there to the booth, sit down with the folks over there at CA and watch it and see how it works, because it's pretty impressive. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for years.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Going once? Sold.
Thank you, guys.